The room laughed before I decided what my face should do. I was standing near the back wall of the Wausau Country Club, holding a glass of club soda. My father had the microphone. Behind him, gold letters spelled out 50 years of Coleman Builders. Someone near the front had asked about my promotion. Dad looked across the room until he found me. He smiled like he was about to include me. Instead, he lifted his glass. "That uniform is rented, folks. She plays dress-up on weekends. The real work happens here." My brother Ethan laughed first. His wife, Kayla, covered her mouth, but she was smiling. Several company people joined in. Others looked down at their tables. I could hear ice settling in my glass. Dad kept going. "Now, if you want a building that stays standing, talk to my son." He pointed toward Ethan. More applause followed. I didn't correct him. That part matters. I could have walked to the microphone. I could have explained exactly where I'd come from that evening. I could have told those 200 people what the uniform meant. I didn't. I finished my drink. I found the caterer, a woman named Marie, and thanked her for saving me a plate. Then I got my coat and drove home to Madison. At that point, I thought the insult was the problem. I had no idea my father had already put my name on something much worse. To explain how we got there, I need to go back a few weeks. Most mornings, I woke before the alarm. That winter, I usually opened my eyes around 5:10. The house would be quiet. The furnace clicked twice before it started. Snowplows passed along the main road before sunrise. I'd make coffee, check the weather, and stand at my kitchen counter reading emails. I had a small table near the window, but I rarely used it. Sitting down made the morning feel slower. I lived alone in a brick ranch outside Madison. It wasn't large. 2 bedrooms, 1 bathroom, a narrow garage, and a kitchen somebody had remodeled in the early 90s. The cabinet doors never closed evenly. I'd been meaning to fix them for years. On my nightstand sat my grandfather Harold's dog tags. Beside them was a folded note in his handwriting. He gave me both before he died. The note wasn't long. "You chose your road. Walk it straight." That was it. No speech about service, no advice about courage. Grandpa wasn't built for speeches. He'd served in Korea, then returned to Wausau. In 1954, he opened a small carpentry shop. He framed garages, repaired barns, and built kitchen cabinets for people who paid him in installments. My father grew up sweeping that shop. By the time I came along, Dad had turned it into Coleman Builders. He incorporated the company in 1976, the same year Ethan was born. That fact came up at nearly every family dinner. "The company and your brother grew up together," Dad liked to say. I was 4 that year. Apparently, I was just there. Dad loved the business with a kind of fear. I didn't understand that when I was younger. I thought it was pride. Later, I could see the difference. Pride lets you enjoy something. Fear makes you guard it from everybody. Ethan belonged at the shop because Dad decided he did. I didn't because Dad had decided that too. When I joined the Wisconsin Army National Guard at 18, Dad didn't speak to me for 4 days. We were sitting at the kitchen table when I told him. Mom had made meatloaf. Ethan was picking onions from his plate. Dad put down his fork. "You did what?" I enlisted. "No, you didn't. I signed this morning." He stared at me. Mom kept both hands in her lap. Dad said, "You don't know anything about that life. That's why they train you." He didn't like my answer. He pushed his chair back and walked outside. Through the kitchen window, I watched him cross the yard toward the detached garage. He stayed there until after dark. Mom wrapped his plate in foil. Ethan asked if he could have my potatoes. That was my family. Nobody said the hard thing directly. They moved food around it. A few days later, Dad started talking again. He acted like nothing had happened. The first joke came that Sunday. Grandpa was at our house for lunch. Dad told him I'd be playing soldier on weekends. Grandpa looked at me. "You signed?" "Yes." He nodded once. "Then show up on time." Dad laughed, but Grandpa didn't. Over the years, Dad changed the wording. The point stayed the same. If I missed a holiday, I was playing Army. If I came home tired, I needed a real job. If someone asked what I did, Dad answered before I could. She works for the state. That wasn't completely false. It was just carefully incomplete. I got commissioned in 1994. Dad attended the ceremony because Mom made him. He wore the same brown sport coat he used for funerals. Afterward, he shook my hand. Now that you've got this out of your system, what's next? I report to my unit Monday. He looked past me toward the parking lot. I mean for your life. I remember Mom touching his arm. Richard. What? I'm asking. I could have fought with him. Instead, I said, this is my life. He smiled like I'd made a childish claim. That smile followed me for years. There were long stretches when I didn't see my family much. There were months when calls had to be planned. There were holidays moved to different weekends because I couldn't come home. Mom always saved a plate. Dad always found a way to make the absence sound voluntary. Diane's busy with her hobby. He said it at Thanksgiving dinners. He said it at company picnics. He said it to people who knew better. The strange part was, he never said it privately. Alone with me, he avoided the subject. He asked about my roof, my car, and whether I'd started dating anyone. He asked if I needed money, even when he didn't have much himself. He never asked about work, not once. By early 2026, I'd stopped expecting him to. I was 54. Dad was 79. You reach an age when you understand that some arguments are older than the people having them. I still drove to Wausau once or twice a month. I helped Mom with groceries. I changed the furnace filter because Dad forgot. I sat through family dinners where Ethan talked about concrete prices and labor shortages. Coleman Builders was still the center of everything. The company office sat on Grand Avenue in a low brick building with green metal trim. The original shop was behind it. Grandpa's old workbench still stood along the back wall. Ethan worked there full-time. His title was Vice President of Operations, though Dad still approved everything important. Kayla handled company events and some community work. She liked things to look expensive, even when they weren't. Their son, Logan, had joined the company as a junior estimator. He was 24 and still learning when to speak during meetings. He had Grandpa's habit of watching first. Jesse Avila ran the estimating side. He'd worked for Dad since 2008. Jesse knew every supplier between Eau Claire and Green Bay. He could look at a set of plans and find the missing cost before lunch. Dad trusted him more than he trusted most relatives. That winter, the company was preparing its 50th anniversary gala. Kayla treated it like a royal wedding. She called me one Tuesday evening. "Please tell me you're coming," I said I would. "You said you'd try. That's usually what people say before checking schedules." She sighed. "We need a firm number. Then put me down as yes. And you're bringing someone?" "No." There was a short silence. Kayla had been trying to fix that part of my life since she married Ethan. "You could invite Alan." "Alan is married, I know. I meant socially. I know what you meant." She laughed too brightly. "Fine, come alone. Wear something nice. I own nice clothes. I'm sure you do." I leaned against the counter. "What does that mean?" "Nothing. I just don't want you arriving from work in fatigues. I wouldn't wear fatigues to a country club." "I know. I'm only saying." "No, you're planning a photograph." Another silence. Then she said, "The company's turning 50. Your father wants one decent family picture." That got my attention. "Dad said that?" "Well, he approved the idea. That isn't what I asked." "Diane, please don't make this difficult." I looked toward the dark kitchen window. "I'll be there by 6, if traffic cooperates." "The photographer leaves at 7. "I heard you." She softened her voice. "This matters to him." Most things mattered to Dad when there was a photographer. The gala was scheduled for a Friday in February. I had an official dinner in Madison that afternoon and couldn't leave early. I told Kayla this twice. She called again the day before. "Could you skip the first thing?" "No." "Is it mandatory?" "Yes. Everything is mandatory with you." I didn't answer. She tried again. "We have people coming from Milwaukee. The chamber president will be there. There may be someone from the state." "What does that have to do with me?" "I'm explaining why the schedule matters." "No, you're telling me who will notice I'm late." She exhaled into the phone. Can you be here by 7? I'll come as soon as I can. Change first. I won't have time. Then what are you wearing? My uniform. She went quiet. That should have warned me. Finally, she said, which one? The formal one. Oh? The word sounded smaller than it needed to. Is that a problem? No, of course not. I heard papers moving on her end. Dad may tease you. Dad always teases me. You know how he is. Yes, Kayla, I do. After we hung up, I stood there holding my phone. You know how he is had covered a lot in our family. It covered birthdays he forgot and promises he broke. It covered the way he spoke to Mom when money was tight. It covered Ethan taking credit for work Jesse had done. Mostly it meant nobody expected Dad to change. The next evening, I left Madison later than planned. Snow had started around Portage. Nothing serious, just dry flakes moving across the highway. I kept both hands on the wheel and watched the red lights ahead of me. Kayla called near Stevens Point. Where are you? Driving. The picture is done. I told you I'd be late. We waited 20 minutes. I'm sorry, your father's annoyed. He'll recover. That's not helpful. A truck passed on my left, throwing mist across the windshield. I waited for it to clear. Kayla, I'm on the road. I'll get there safely. Fine. She hung up. I reached the country club shortly after 8. The parking lot was packed. A temporary sign near the entrance read, Coleman Builders, 50 years of building Wisconsin. Inside, somebody had decorated everything in green and gold. Old company photographs stood on easels. The first one showed Grandpa outside his shop in 1954. He was holding a hammer and squinting into the sun. The next photograph showed Dad beside the newly incorporated company sign in 1976. He was 29 with thick hair and a wide tie. There was one of Ethan at 22, standing beside his first completed commercial project. I walked past 12 easels. There wasn't one photograph of me. That didn't surprise me. It did make something clear. The event wasn't a family history. It was a succession plan. A woman at the check-in table looked at my uniform, then at her list. Name? Diane Coleman. Her eyes widened. Oh, Mr. Coleman's daughter. Yes, she found my card in a box. Table 3. Thank you. Your family already ate. I assumed they had. She handed me a gold place card. My name had been printed beneath the words, Coleman Family. Someone had crossed out Table 3 and written 14. I looked toward the room. Table 3 was centered near the stage. Dad, Mom, Ethan, Kayla, and Logan sat there with 2 chamber officials. Table 14 was beside the service door. The woman noticed the change. I'm sorry. They rearranged seating. Who did? She glanced toward Kayla. I'm not sure. She knew. I slid the card into my pocket. Marie, the caterer, came through the service door carrying a tray. I recognized her from 2 company Christmas parties. You missed dinner, she said. Occupational hazard. I saved salmon. Kitchen's still warm. Thank you. She looked over my shoulder at the main table. I can bring it out. Back here is fine. I ate standing near a stainless steel counter while servers cleared plates. Marie found me a fork and a clean napkin. A young server came in carrying empty wine bottles. He looked at my clothes. Are you with the ceremony? No, I'm with the family. He glanced toward the ballroom. Sorry, I almost laughed. You didn't do anything. After I ate, I went into the ballroom. Mom saw me first. Her face changed. She started to rise from her chair, then caught herself against the table and waved me over instead. I bent and kissed her cheek. You made it, she said. I said I would. She touched my sleeve. You look beautiful. Thank you. Dad was speaking to the chamber president. He didn't turn. Ethan looked at me and grinned. Straight from the front lines? Madison. Close enough. Kayla gave me a quick hug. The photographer left. I heard. Maybe we can do another picture later. That's fine. Dad finally looked over. He took in the uniform from collar to shoes. You couldn't change? No. He nodded toward the room. People are going to think this is some military event. I doubt that. You know what I mean. I did know. He wasn't worried people would misunderstand the event. He was worried they might ask about me. Logan shifted his chair. "You can sit here, Aunt Diane." He started moving his water glass. Kayla stopped him. "That seat's reserved." "For who?" "The county executive." The county executive wasn't there. I said, "I'm at table 14. Mom frowned. "That's by the kitchen. It's fine." Dad had already turned away. I walked to table 14 and sat beside two retired suppliers and the owner of a flooring company. They were kind. One of them found me a clean wine glass. The other asked how the roads were. For 20 minutes, nobody mentioned my clothes. Then Dad took the microphone. He thanked employees, customers, lenders, and community partners. He spoke about Grandpa starting with one truck and a borrowed saw. He called Ethan to the stage. "My son has spent his whole life learning real work." Ethan stood beside him, smiling. Dad placed a hand on his shoulder. "This business will stay a Coleman business." People applauded. Logan looked down at his plate. A guest near the front called, "Richard, what about your daughter's promotion?" Dad looked toward me. For half a second, I thought he might surprise me. He raised his glass instead. "That uniform is rented, folks. She plays dress-up on weekends. The real work happens here." The laugh moved through the room unevenly. Dawn Cummings, a local reporter, sat near the stage with a notebook open. She didn't laugh. She looked at Dad, then at me. I held her gaze for 1 second. Then I looked back at my father. He was already speaking again. I stayed through the toast. I thanked Marie. I said goodbye to Mom and Logan. Dad didn't notice me leave. Outside, the snow had stopped. I sat in my car with the engine running and both hands resting on the steering wheel. My phone buzzed. It was a message from Mom. "I'm sorry," I typed. "It's all right." Then I erased it. I wrote, "I'm home tomorrow. Call me then." The drive to Madison took almost 2 hours. I didn't turn on the radio. At home, I hung the uniform carefully. I set my shoes beneath it. Then I sat on the edge of my bed and picked up Grandpa's dog tags. The metal was cold. His note rested underneath them. "You chose your road. Walk it straight." I read it twice. Dad's joke wasn't new. The room wasn't new either. There had always been a room where he was the authority, and I was the daughter who didn't understand real work. What bothered me was something else. Kayla had mentioned state people. Dad had filled the room with officials, lenders, and contractors. He wanted everyone there to see Coleman Builders as a military family legacy because Grandpa had served. Yet when someone looked directly at the living service in his own family, Dad called it rented. He wanted the history. He just didn't want me attached to it. At the time, I thought that was the question. Why did my father need my service to mean nothing? A few weeks later, at a family cookout in Wausau, Logan said one careless sentence about a state bid packet. That was when I learned Dad didn't need my service to mean nothing. He needed it to mean whatever Coleman Builders had written down. 3 weeks after the gala, Alan Burgess set a paper cup beside my elbow. "Drink that before it turns into roofing tar." I looked away from my computer. That description doesn't help. It's headquarters coffee. Hope is irresponsible. Alan was our chief of staff. He'd also been my raider and mentor long enough to know when I was pretending not to wait for something. We were in my office on Wright Street. It was just after 7. Most of the building was still quiet. A snowbank outside my window had turned gray from road salt. Someone down the hall was fighting with a copier. Alan shut my door. That got my attention. He sat in the chair across from my desk and nodded toward the coffee. "Your packet went forward. I left my hands where they were. When? Friday. Complete? Complete. No returns? Not yet." I picked up the cup. The coffee was worse than he'd promised. Alan watched me swallow it. "That's all you've got? What would you like?" A smile might be appropriate. "I'm waiting for the next office." "There will always be a next office." "I know." He leaned back. "The state review is done. The federal side has it." I nodded. There wasn't anything else to do. A packet moved through steps. People checked records, dates, clearances, assignments, and evaluations. Then somebody else checked the same things. It wasn't a promotion yet. It wasn't an announcement. It was a folder moving forward. Still, I could feel my pulse in my wrist. Alan glanced toward the closed door. Keep this small for now. I wasn't planning a parade. I mean, family, too. That made me look at him. He knew enough about Dad to understand the question. The family heard there was a promotion, I said. Nothing specific. From you? No. He waited. I took another drink. My father has a large mouth and poor sources. Alan almost smiled. Then don't improve his sources. I won't. He stood and reached for the door. Goodwin knows. Of course he does. Leonard knows everything. That's why he's useful. Alan opened the door, then looked back. Diane. Yes? You've done your part. I looked at the folder beside my keyboard. I know. He left before I had to say more. I finished the coffee and went back to work. That was how most important things happened in my life. Someone closed a door, delivered a sentence, then opened the door again. By 8, I was reviewing facility maintenance projections. At 9, I sat through a meeting about drainage failures. Before lunch, I called an engineering officer in Green Bay about a roof inspection. Nobody mentioned the packet. I didn't either. Command Sergeant Major Leonard Goodwin appeared in my doorway around noon. He carried a bowl covered with plastic wrap. My wife made too much chili. Your wife has never made too much food. She told me to bring you this. That sounds more accurate. He put the bowl on my desk. Leonard had the steady expression of a man who could wait longer than anybody else in the room. He looked at me. I looked back. Finally, he said, So? Sir gave you the news. I checked the hallway. You're enjoying this? A little. There's nothing to enjoy yet. That's what Burgess said you'd say. They should stop discussing me. No chance. He nodded toward the chili. Heat it for 3 minutes. Stir halfway. I can operate a microwave. I've seen your kitchen. He left before I could answer. I took the chili home that evening. I ate half and put the rest in the refrigerator. The packet stayed on my mind, but not the way people might expect. I didn't imagine a ceremony. I thought about the questions reviewers might ask. I thought about dates that could be entered wrong. I remembered a medical form that had once gone missing for 6 weeks. I checked nothing because there was nothing left to check. Instead, I washed the bowl and set it near my keys. Mom called while I was drying it. Are you coming Sunday? What's Sunday? Your father wants to grill in March. He says it'll be 52. That doesn't make it summer. You know him. There was that sentence again. I set the towel down. Who's coming? Just us. Ethan, Kayla, Logan, maybe Jesse. Why Jesse? Your father wants to discuss work, then it isn't just us. Mom lowered her voice. Please come. I heard a cabinet close on her end. Dad said something in the background. Mom answered him, then came back. I haven't seen you since the party. You saw me at the party. Not really. That was true. All right, I said, I'll come. Good. Around 1. Do you need anything? Potato salad? Store-bought? She paused. Your father likes yours. I smiled despite myself. Fine. Sunday was bright and windy. The temperature reached 50, not 52. Dad stood beneath the covered patio wearing a canvas jacket. Smoke from the grill kept blowing into his face. He refused to move it. Mom met me at the side door. You brought too much. You always say that. The kitchen smelled like onions and coffee. A bowl of baked beans sat beside the stove. I put the potato salad in the refrigerator. Mom touched my arm. You left quickly that night. It was late. Your father shouldn't have said that. No. She looked toward the patio. He was nervous. About what? The speech. All those people. Dad has been speaking into microphones for 50 years. You know what I mean? I don't think I do. She folded the grocery bag I'd carried and smoothed it flat against the counter. He wanted everything to go well. It did go well. Diane. I opened the silverware drawer. I'm not angry with you, Mom. I know, then don't explain it for him. She stopped folding the bag. For a moment, all I heard was the patio door rattling in the wind. Mom nodded. All right, that was more than she usually said. Ethan and Kayla arrived 10 minutes later. Logan came in behind them carrying 2 bakery pies. Kayla kissed Mom's cheek, then placed her handbag on the cleanest chair. She looked at me. "I'm glad you're not still upset." I handed Logan a serving spoon. "What gave you that impression?" "You left without saying goodbye." I said goodbye to Mom and Logan. Ethan opened the refrigerator. "So not us." "You were talking to a banker. He took out a beer. You could have interrupted." "I didn't want to." Kayla gave a small laugh. "There. See? She's fine." I looked at her. What exactly would happen if I wasn't? The smile stayed on her face, but her eyes changed. Dad came through the patio door. "Are we eating or holding a hearing?" His cheeks were red from the wind. Mom said, "Richard." "What?" "Nothing," I said. "We're eating." Dad pointed toward the cooler. "Get yourself a drink. I'm driving." "So is everybody." "I'm fine." He looked at my sweater and jeans. "No costume today?" The room went quiet for one beat. Then Ethan opened his beer. I took plates from the cabinet. No costume. Dad seemed disappointed that I hadn't given him more. He returned to the grill. We ate around the dining table because the patio was too cold. Jesse never came. Dad complained that he'd stopped answering calls on Sundays. "He has a family," Mom said. "So do I." Ethan reached for the beans. "He'll finish the numbers tomorrow." He said Friday. "It's 1 day. It's 3 days." Logan looked down at his plate. Dad pointed his fork at him. "This is what I'm talking about. Dates matter." "I know," Logan said. "Then act like it." "He didn't set the schedule," Ethan said. "He works in estimating. Everybody owns the schedule." Kayla touched Ethan's wrist. "Let's not talk shop." Dad ignored her. "When that Stevens Point job hits, nobody gets weekends for a while." Ethan glanced at Logan. "We haven't won it yet. We will." Dad said it with enough force to make disagreement feel rude. I'd heard about the Stevens Point project. Most people in our building had. The Readiness Center needed major renovation, including mechanical work, security upgrades, and interior changes. The project had been moving through procurement for months. I had no role in the bid process. I wasn't on the selection team. I hadn't read the proposals. Until that lunch, I didn't know Coleman Builders had submitted one. I set down my fork. "You bid Stevens Point?" Dad looked at me. "Why wouldn't we?" "I didn't know you were going after state work. We've done state work. Not there. It's a building." Ethan leaned back. "It's a big job." "How big?" "Big enough," Dad said. He disliked money questions unless he was asking them. Logan said, "It's 11.4. Ethan looked at him. Dad's fork stopped halfway to his mouth. Logan added, "It's public." "I know it's public," Dad said. "That doesn't mean you announce our whole bid at lunch. That's the project value, not our number." "I know what it is." Logan went quiet. I looked at Ethan. "When did you submit?" "January. Who led it?" "Jesse did the estimate. I handled the narrative." Dad cut into his bratwurst. "We have the best package." Kayla smiled at him. "The community section came out beautifully." Dad nodded. 50 years in Wausau means something. "It should," I said. He glanced at me, as if checking for sarcasm. There wasn't any. Mom offered more potato salad. The conversation moved to a supplier dispute. Then Dad talked about labor costs. Ethan explained why 2 project managers had left. I listened without asking more. The bid had nothing to do with me. That was what I believed then. After lunch, Mom and Kayla cleared the table. Dad took Ethan outside to look at something in the garage. Logan stayed behind with a stack of plates. I was scraping food into the trash. He said, "Grandpa shouldn't talk to you like that." I kept scraping. "Your grandfather talks to everybody like that." "Not the same way, no." He set the plates beside the sink. "At the gala, I mean." "I know what you mean." He'd been drinking. "Logan." "Yeah?" "Don't excuse people to me. Your grandmother has that position covered." He looked embarrassed. "I wasn't trying to. I know." He opened the dishwasher. For a few minutes, we worked without speaking. Logan rinsed glasses. I wrapped leftover brats in foil. Then he said, "The bid packet has a whole section about you." I turned from the counter. "What?" He kept his eyes on the dishwasher. The Stevens Point packet. What kind of section? He shrugged. I don't know. The veteran family thing. The kitchen faucet was running. I reached over and turned it off. Logan, look at me. He did. What does it say? I didn't read all of it. You just said there's a whole section. I saw your name. Where? In the narrative binder. What was attached to it? I don't know. Did you work on that section? No. I was checking tabs before delivery. Who wrote it? Jesse, I think. You think? His initials were on the draft. Mom came in carrying a bowl. Logan stepped aside too quickly. She looked between us. Everything all right? Yes, I said. Logan nodded. Mom placed the bowl near the sink. Your father wants coffee. I'll make it, Logan said. He reached for the coffee tin. I picked up my keys from the counter. Mom frowned. You're leaving? I have a drive. You haven't had pie. Wrap me a piece. She began searching for a container. Logan measured coffee into the filter. His hand shook enough to spill some grounds. I waited until Mom walked toward the pantry. Then I said quietly, You saw my name? He nodded. Did anyone tell you not to mention it? His face answered before he did. Dad said the bid stays inside the company. That isn't what I asked. Logan pressed his palm against the counter. Dad told us not to bother you with paperwork. Us. That meant more than one person knew my name was there. Did he say why? No. Ethan opened the patio door. Cold air came into the kitchen. What are you two whispering about? Coffee, Logan said. Ethan looked at me. I held his gaze. Then Mom returned with pie in a plastic container. I took it from her and kissed her cheek. Thank you. Call when you get home. I will. Dad was still in the garage. I left without finding him. On the drive south, I didn't call anyone. I didn't ask Logan for pictures. I didn't contact Jesse. A nervous person would start removing things if I moved too quickly. I stopped at a gas station outside Stevens Point and parked near the air pump. The wind rocked my car slightly. I took out my phone and searched the public procurement site. The Readiness Center project appeared immediately. I opened the solicitation. There were hundreds of pages. Plans, schedules, insurance requirements, wage rules, security conditions, and bidder forms. I didn't read them all. I searched for the words, veteran family. One result appeared in the scoring section. The program gave preference points to a verified military family enterprise. The bidder had to describe the service member's relationship to the company. It also had to explain the service member's material role. A family connection alone wasn't enough. I read that part again. Material role. I had never worked for Coleman Builders. I had never advised the company. I had never reviewed a project, signed a form, attended a meeting, or received $1 from it. Grandpa had served, but he'd been dead since 2014. Whatever legitimate history the company had through him, it couldn't make a current statement about me. I opened the public bidder cover sheets. Coleman Builders was listed. Beside preference requested, the box said yes. I enlarged the page. The category was Military Family Enterprise. That was the first deliberate thing I did. I didn't call Dad and demand an explanation. I opened my calendar and checked every contact I'd had with the company since the solicitation began. Family dinners, 2 calls with Mom, a Christmas visit. Nothing about a bid. Then I searched my personal email. Nothing. I searched my work email for Coleman Builders. The only recent message was Kayla's gala invitation. I checked my electronic signature history. Nothing. Back home, I put Mom's pie in the refrigerator. I changed clothes and sat at the kitchen table. The dog tags rested upstairs. I left them there. This wasn't about Grandpa yet. It wasn't about Dad's joke either. This was a state bid, filed in January. My family had requested scoring points under a category that required a service member's involvement. Logan had seen my name inside it. I wrote down 4 questions. What exactly had they claimed? Who had approved it? What records had they attached? Why had Dad told everyone not to bother me? The next morning, I called the general procurement number from my personal phone. A woman answered after the 3rd ring. I gave her the project number. I'm trying to obtain a bidder narrative. Which bidder? Coleman Builders. Are you with the company? No. Then you'll need a public records request. Is the narrative releasable? Some parts may be withheld during evaluation. What about a preference claim? She paused. Those are generally subject to verification. That wasn't my question. No, I understand. Her voice became more careful. You may request the submitted narrative. The records office will determine what can be released. Does a bidder need written authorization from the service member? I can't interpret the solicitation for you. I'm not asking for an interpretation. I'm asking what documents normally support the claim. Another pause. The bidder certifies the information when filing. Does the named person certify it? Not necessarily. That answer settled something in me. A company could put someone's name in the narrative without attaching their signature. The certification came from the bidder. I thanked her and ended the call. Then I completed the public records form. I used my personal address. I identified myself only as Diane Coleman. I asked for the preference narrative, supporting attachments, and certification page exactly as submitted. Before sending it, I read the request twice. Once I pressed the button, there would be a record that I had asked. I pressed it anyway. The confirmation arrived less than a minute later. Your request has been received. 2 days passed. Nobody in Wausau called me. On the third afternoon, an email appeared from the records office. It said responsive material had been located. Certain pricing pages would remain withheld during evaluation, but the preference section could be released. One attachment sat beneath the message. Its file name was Military Family Enterprise Narrative, Coleman Builders, LLC. I moved my office door until it clicked shut. Then I downloaded the file. I didn't open it there. The file had arrived through a public request, but my office was still the wrong place to read it. The project touched a guard facility. The computer belonged to the state. I copied the records email to my personal account. Then I deleted the downloaded copy from the temporary folder and finished my workday. At 5:30, I drove home. I stopped for groceries on the way: milk, eggs, coffee, and a bag of apples. I moved through the store slowly because I didn't want to rush toward that file. At home, I changed clothes and heated Leonard's chili. I ate at the kitchen counter. The laptop stayed closed on the table. Around 7, I washed my bowl. I wiped the counter, checked the back door, and made another cup of coffee. Then I sat down. The attachment was 43 pages. I opened the table of contents first. The preference section began on page 27. It included a company narrative, a relationship chart, 2 photographs, and a signed certification page. I started with the narrative. The first paragraph described Grandpa's service and the business he founded after returning home. That part was mostly accurate. The shop's original name was wrong. The date was right. The description of Grandpa building the company from nothing was polished, but true enough. The next paragraph moved from Grandpa to Dad. It said Richard Coleman had continued a proud military family tradition through the active service of his daughter, Diane Coleman. I stopped there. Dad had never described my service as a proud tradition, not to me. I kept reading. The narrative said I materially supported Coleman Builders through strategic guidance, facilities knowledge, and regular consultation on public projects. None of that had happened. It said I co-directed company planning related to military and emergency facilities. I had never directed anything at Coleman Builders. It gave me a rank I did not hold. Then it described me as a senior decision maker with direct understanding of Wisconsin National Guard construction priorities. I read that sentence 3 times. That claim was worse than the rest. It didn't simply make me part of the company. It suggested I had given my family inside knowledge. The next paragraph said my experience created a unique operational bridge between Coleman Builders and the military community. I put my coffee down. A bridge works both ways. That sentence made it sound like the company could reach the department through me. It also made it sound like the department could reach the bidder through me. Neither was true. I opened the relationship chart. Dad sat at the top as founder and owner. Ethan appeared beneath him as Vice President of Operations. Jesse was listed under estimating. My name sat off to the side in a gold box. A dotted line ran from my box to Ethan's. The label beneath it read, Military Facilities Strategy and Community Liaison. I didn't know whether to be insulted by the lie or the bad title. I had never seen the chart. I had never approved it. Nobody had asked how my position should appear, because my position didn't exist. The photographs came next. The first showed Grandpa outside the old shop. The second showed me at a family Memorial Day event several years earlier. I was standing beside Dad near the Wausau courthouse. The picture had been cropped. Mom had been on my other side. Ethan had been behind us. In the bid version, only Dad and I remained. The caption called us company founder and military advisor. Dad hadn't founded the original shop. I wasn't the company's advisor. The photograph belonged to Mom. She kept a printed copy in the hallway. I wondered who had scanned it. The last page was the certification. Ethan had signed it in January. Above his signature was a statement confirming that the information was complete and accurate to the best of his knowledge. I checked the date. The filing happened about a month before news of my packet had begun moving through the family. That explained the wrong rank. It didn't explain the invented job. I printed the preference section on my small home printer. The machine paused after every few pages. I stood beside it and waited. Warm sheets slid into the tray one at a time. I placed them in order. Then I opened the metadata panel on the electronic file. The state copy had been created from a Coleman Builders document. The listed author was Jesse Avila. The last save appeared under Ethan's company account. That didn't tell me who wrote the lies. It told me who had touched the file. I closed the laptop and looked at the printed pages. For years, Dad had treated my service like something embarrassing. Now his company was presenting it as a qualification. That hurt. The larger problem was what the document could do outside our family. If a reviewer believed it, Coleman Builders might receive points it hadn't earned. If a reviewer questioned it, my name sat inside a false claim involving the same department where I worked. Either way, I was in it. I took a yellow legal pad from the cabinet. At the top, I wrote, "Do not contact procurement from work." Below that, I wrote, "Preserve original email and attachment." Then I added, "Confirm no prior authorization." I already knew I hadn't authorized anything. Still, knowing wasn't the same as documenting. I searched my old messages again. This time I went back 2 years. There were birthday invitations, family photos, and a note from Ethan asking whether I knew a reliable snow removal contractor in Madison. Nothing about Stevens Point. I checked text messages with Dad. Most were short. "Call your mother. What size furnace filter? Coming Sunday? No bid. No company roll. No request for consent." I exported the relevant message history and saved it with the records response. Then I photographed the printed certification page. I wasn't building a case against my family. At least, that wasn't how I thought of it. I was separating what I knew from what I suspected. What I knew was simple. My name appeared in a state bid. The company claimed I helped direct its work. Ethan certified the claim. What I suspected was harder. Either Ethan believed Dad had my permission or he knew he didn't need it. The next morning, Don Cummings called my personal phone. I was walking from the parking lot toward headquarters. My coffee was in one hand. My bag was over my shoulder. I didn't recognize the number. Diane Coleman. "Ms. Coleman, this is Don Cummings with the Wausau Ledger." I stopped near the entrance. "I remember you. I was at the anniversary gala. I remember that, too. A maintenance truck backed across the lot. I stepped onto the sidewalk. What can I do for you?" "I'm finishing a piece about local firms competing for the Stevens Point renovation." "All right. Coleman Builders is one of them." "So I've heard." She waited, likely expecting more. When I didn't provide it, she continued. "The company requested military family preference points." I looked at the building entrance. 2 employees walked through the glass doors. Neither paid attention to me. Dawn said, "The filing describes you as an advisor. I haven't seen your source." "The bidder cover sheet is public." "That doesn't describe an advisory role." "No, but I spoke to someone familiar with the narrative." "Who?" "I can't discuss sources." Then I can't discuss their description." Her voice remained calm. "Do you advise Coleman Builders?" "No." The answer came out before I considered whether to give it. Dawn didn't speak for a moment. I shifted the coffee to my other hand. She asked, "Have you ever advised them on state projects?" "No." "Did you know they were using your military relationship in the bid?" "I'm not commenting on an active procurement. That isn't quite the same question. It's the answer I can give you. Are you involved in reviewing the bid?" "No." "Does anyone in your office review it?" "I won't discuss internal assignments." She took a breath. "At the gala, your father said the uniform was rented." "Yes. Now the company is seeking preference points through your service." I watched a piece of road salt melt beneath my shoe. "What are you asking me, Miss Cummings?" "I'm asking which version is true." I had no answer that wouldn't make the situation worse. "I'm not speaking for Coleman Builders. I'm asking you to speak for yourself. Not today." I ended the call. For several seconds, I stayed outside. The complication had arrived faster than I expected. The bid wasn't sitting quietly in an office. A reporter had connected my name to it. I went inside and placed my phone in my bag. Leonard saw me near the elevators. "You look like somebody served you decaf. Worse." He pressed the button. "Family?" I looked at him. He raised one hand. "Lucky guess." The elevator opened. 2 other people were inside, so neither of us spoke. When we reached our floor, Leonard followed me toward my office. I unlocked the door. "Do you have 10 minutes?" I asked. He closed the door behind us. I didn't show him the narrative. I wasn't ready to circulate it, even inside the building. Instead, I asked a narrow question. If a close relative bids on a department project, what do you expect from the person working here? Disclosure and recusal. Even with no role in the procurement? Yes. What if the person didn't know about the bid? Disclose when they learn. He studied my face. "Is this theoretical?" "No." He pulled out the chair across from my desk. "Your father's company?" "Yes." "Stevens Point?" I nodded. "How did you learn?" "Family conversation." "That all?" "No." I kept my hands flat on the desk. They put my name in the preference section. Leonard's expression didn't change. "What did you authorize?" "Nothing." "What did they say?" "That I advised the company and helped direct military facility planning." He sat very still. "Do you?" "No. I know you don't. I needed to hear you say it. I don't." "Did they claim access through you?" "Not directly." "Indirectly?" "Yes." He looked toward the door, then back at me. "Who have you told?" "You." "Burgess?" "Not yet. Compliance?" "No. Your family." "No. Reporter?" "She called this morning. I denied advising the company." "Nothing else." He rubbed one thumb across the edge of his notebook. "Good. I don't know that. It's true, and it protects the department." He leaned forward. "You need the right office." "I know. Today." "Not yet." His eyebrows lifted. I turned the legal pad toward myself, though he couldn't see what I'd written at home. "I need to know whether this was a mistake, an assumption, or a deliberate filing. It's false either way." "Yes." "Intent won't change the need to disclose." "No. It changes what I can say when I do." Leonard considered that. "You're worried they'll claim you approved it verbally. I'm worried they'll claim anything convenient. You need counsel." "I need facts first." He didn't like that answer. I could see it in his jaw. Finally, he said, "Don't wait long. I won't. And don't access anything internal. I haven't. Don't discuss the procurement with anyone assigned to it. I won't." He stood. At the door, he paused. "Diane, this can reach your packet." I had already considered that. Hearing him say it made the room feel colder. How? "If the narrative creates an appearance that you used your position for family benefit, somebody will have to clear it, even if it's nonsense. Especially if it's nonsense." He nodded. "Exactly." After he left, I closed the door again. My packet was moving through federal recognition. That process depended on a clean record and accurate disclosures. A false bid narrative did not become true because someone submitted it. But an unexplained conflict could still delay everything. Dad's company hadn't only borrowed my service, it had placed me inside a claim I might have to defend against. At lunch, I walked to Alan's office. His assistant said he was in meetings until 4. I almost waited. Then I thought about Jesse's name in the file. He had created the document. He'd also worked for Dad long enough to know how decisions got made. I returned to my office and found Jesse's personal number. I'd called him only once before, when Mom needed a contractor to repair her porch railing. He'd answered on the first ring. This time, it went to voicemail. "Jesse, it's Diane. I need a small family favor. Call me when you have a minute." I kept my voice ordinary. He called back at 6:12 that evening. I was sitting in my car outside a dry cleaner. "Hey," he said. "Sorry, long day." "No problem. What does your mom need?" "It isn't Mom." He became quiet. I could hear a turn signal clicking on his end. I said, "I'm looking at the Stevens Point bid." The clicking stopped. Jesse didn't ask how I had it. He didn't ask which part. Instead, he said, "Diane, I can't talk about company bids. I'm not asking about pricing. You should talk to Ethan. I'm asking about a document with my name on it." A car pulled into the space beside me. I watched the driver go inside the dry cleaner. Jesse lowered his voice. "Where did you get it?" "Public records." Another silence. "You wrote the preference narrative. I drafted parts of the package. Your name is in the file. That doesn't mean I approved the final. I didn't say it did." He breathed out slowly. "What do you want?" "I want to understand what you were told." "I'm driving." "Then pull over. I can't do this on the phone." "Fine." He didn't answer. I waited. Finally, he said, "Tomorrow morning, 6:30. The diner on Stewart." "Wowsow. You asked what I was told? That's a 2-hour drive." "I know." His voice sounded tired now. "And Diane?" "Yes?" "Don't tell Ethan you're coming." Then he ended the call. I left Madison at 4:15 the next morning. The roads were clear. Fog sat low over the fields north of Portage. I kept the radio off and drank coffee from a travel mug. At 6:22, I pulled into the diner parking lot. Jesse's truck was already there. The diner had red vinyl booths and a pie case beside the register. A waitress filled coffee cups without asking. 3 men in work jackets sat at the counter. Jesse was in the last booth. He wore a Coleman Builders jacket over a blue button-down shirt. His phone rested face down beside the sugar dispenser. I slid into the seat across from him. "You drove fast," he said. "I left early." The waitress brought me coffee. "You eating?" she asked. "Eggs and toast." "Potatoes?" "Yes." She looked at Jesse. He shook his head. "You sure, honey?" "I'm sure." She walked away. Jesse turned his cup between both hands. "You didn't tell Ethan?" "No." "Your dad?" "No. Anybody at work. I told one person there may be a family conflict. I didn't give him your name." He looked toward the counter. "I can't lose my job. I'm not asking you to. It sounds like you are. I asked what you were told." He lowered his voice. "That packet belongs to the company. The copy I have belongs to the state. You know what I mean?" "Yes." He rubbed his thumb across a small crack in the coffee cup. I waited. Jesse had chosen the time and place. I wasn't going to fill the silence for him. Finally, he said, "The preference section wasn't my idea." "Whose was it?" "Ethan's." The waitress returned with cream. Jesse stopped talking until she left. Then he continued. "We were short on points." "How many?" "I don't remember exactly." "Close enough to matter?" "Yes." "What did Ethan tell you?" "He said to punch up the veteran angle." "Using Grandpa?" "That's how it started." Jesse reached for his coffee. "The company history already had Harold in it. We use that in community packages. Grandpa died 12 years ago." "I know. His service doesn't make the current company a military family enterprise." "I know that now." "Did you know it then?" He looked at me. "I knew the preference form asked for a current connection. I didn't know the exact certification rules." "Did you ask?" "Yes." That surprised me. "What answer did you get?" "Ethan said there was an active family member." "Me?" "He gave me your name." Jesse said it quietly. I wrapped both hands around my coffee cup. What else did he give you? A public biography, some old company language, the photograph from Memorial Day. Where did he get the photograph? I don't know. Did you write that I advised the company? Not at first. What did you write? That Coleman Builders had a multi-generational military family connection. That still wasn't enough. I know. What happened to that draft? He sent it back. Jesse picked up his phone, then put it down again. He said the scoring language required material involvement. He told me to make your role clear. What role? He didn't answer. Jesse. He said you helped the family informally. Doing what? Understanding military facilities, community needs, that kind of thing. I have never discussed military facilities with Ethan. I didn't know that. Did you ask for examples? Yes. What did he give you? Nothing specific. The waitress arrived with my breakfast. She placed the plate between us. Anything else? No, thank you. I waited until she returned to the counter. Then I asked, how did nothing specific become co-directed planning? Jesse looked at my plate. That wasn't my wording. Whose was it? Ethan changed it. You saw the final? Not until after submission. You created the file. I created the template. He worked from my draft. The metadata lists you. I know. His voice sharpened. I know what it looks like. What does it look like? It looks like I wrote the whole thing. Did you? No. Then tell me what you did write. He leaned back. I wrote the company history. I wrote the first version of the family section. I put your public service information into the biography without calling me. Ethan told me your dad had handled it. Handled what? Permission. I set my fork down. Those were his words. He said, Dad handled Diane. I stared at Jesse. The counter behind him blurred for a moment. I blinked and it came back. When? December. Maybe the second week. Before the bid was filed. Yes. I never spoke to Dad about it. I believed you had. Why? Because you're his daughter. He realized how weak that sounded. Jesse looked down, and because Ethan was signing it, he added, that made it true? It made it his responsibility. No. It made it easy not to ask. He pressed his lips together. I cut into one of the eggs. I wasn't hungry, but I needed a reason to pause. After a minute, Jesse said, You're right. I looked up. He continued, I should have called you. Yes, I thought somebody else had. Did you believe I co-directed company planning? No. The answer came quickly. Then why didn't you remove it? I didn't see that wording until the binder came back, before submission, the night before, and you said nothing. I sent Ethan an email. What did it say? That the description was stronger than the support we had. What did he say? He called me. What did he say? Jesse glanced around the diner. He said not to get nervous over marketing language. That's not marketing language. It's a certified claim. I told him that. And he said the family connection was real. He said your father had approved everything. I pushed my plate away. Did Dad speak to you directly? Not about the wording. About using me? He asked whether the veteran section was finished. When? The week we submitted. What did you say? I said Ethan had it. How did he respond? He said, good. That should put us over. That was the first direct connection to Dad. It still didn't prove he'd read the narrative. It proved he knew a veteran section could add points, and he expected Ethan to deliver them. Jesse picked up his phone. I have the email I sent. Show me. He unlocked the screen and searched. The message appeared after a few seconds. The date was January 7th. Jesse had written, the revised language attributes an operational role to Diane. We should confirm support and approval before final certification. Ethan's response wasn't in writing, only the sent message remained. Forward that to me. Jesse locked his phone. I can't. You just showed it to me. That's different. It isn't. I have a mortgage, Diane. So does everybody. I've worked there 18 years. I know. Your father gave me a job when nobody else would. That changed his voice. It wasn't loyalty to Ethan. It was debt to Dad. I understood debt. I also understood how people used it. I'm not asking you to choose between the company and me. It feels that way. I'm asking whether you'll tell the truth if someone official asks." His eyes moved toward the window. A delivery truck passed outside. Finally, he said, "Yes." "Even if Ethan tells you not to?" He didn't answer immediately. "Yes." I believed he wanted that answer to be true. I wasn't certain it would be. I took cash from my wallet and placed it under the coffee cup. Jesse said, "What are you going to do?" "I don't know yet. You came 2 hours for this. I came to find out whether somebody made a mistake." He looked at me. And? It wasn't a mistake. I slid out of the booth. Jesse caught my sleeve lightly, then released it. "I didn't know you hadn't approved it." "I believe you." His shoulders lowered. Then I added, "You knew there wasn't support." He looked away. I left him sitting there. Outside, morning traffic had picked up. I stood beside my car and called Mom. She answered in a whisper. "Is everything all right?" "Yes." "Where are you?" "Upstairs." "Your father's asleep. Can I come by?" "Now? I'm in Wausau." She paused. "You drove up this morning?" "Yes." "For what?" "I'll explain when I get there." Dad's truck was in the driveway when I arrived. Mom opened the side door before I knocked. "He was awake half the night," she said. "Don't start anything. I'm not here to see him." She led me into the kitchen. The anniversary flowers were dying in a vase near the window. Brown petals had fallen onto the table. Mom started making coffee. "I already had some." "You drove from Madison. You need more." I let her make it. Dad's footsteps crossed the floor above us. A door closed. I spoke quietly. "Do you still have Grandpa's business papers?" "Which ones?" "The original shop records, military ownership forms, anything from when he started. They're in the basement. Can we look?" "Why?" "I need to see what the company used before Dad incorporated it." Mom held the coffee scoop over the filter. "What happened?" "I found my name in the Stevens Point bid." She lowered the scoop. "What do you mean?" "Coleman Builders told the state I helped direct the company." Her face went blank. "That's not true." "I know. Maybe it's a family description. It's a certified preference claim." She looked toward the ceiling. I followed her eyes. "Did Dad talk to you about it?" "No." "Did Ethan?" "No." "Did anyone ask for that photograph from the courthouse?" Mom gripped the edge of the counter. "Kayla borrowed my album." "When?" "Before Christmas." "What did she say she needed?" "Pictures for the anniversary." That answered one question. Mom put the coffee scoop down. "Your father may not know exactly what they wrote. He knew they were using a veteran section for points." "How do you know?" Jessie told me. She looked at the ceiling again. "Please don't wake him." I said, "I'm not here to see him." Mom led me to the basement. The stairs were narrow. Dad had stacked paint cans along one wall and labeled each lid with a black marker. At the bottom, Mom turned on a bare bulb. Shelves covered 3 walls. Christmas decorations sat beside old tax files and boxes of photographs. Mom moved toward a gray storage bin. "After your grandfather died, your father wanted everything from the shop here." She lifted the lid. Inside were folders tied with faded string. We carried the bin to an old card table. The first folder held invoices from the 1950s. Grandpa had charged $4 for installing a door. The second held insurance records. The third contained the original shop paperwork. Grandpa's full name appeared across the top. Beneath it was the business name he'd used in 1954, Coleman Carpentry and Construction. I touched the paper. The same name had appeared incorrectly in the bid. Behind it sat a veteran ownership declaration. Grandpa had signed it not long after opening the shop. That was the legitimate connection. He had owned the business. He had done the work. His service belonged to him, and the claim rested on him being alive and in control. Dad's 1976 incorporation papers were farther back. The structure changed. The ownership changed. The old designation did not transfer automatically. A later form had a handwritten note across the top, not eligible under current ownership. The handwriting was Dad's. I held it toward Mom. "When did he write this?" She adjusted her glasses. "I don't remember." A date stamp sat near the bottom. It was from the year Dad incorporated Coleman Builders. He knew then, I said. Mom pulled out another folder. Inside was a letter from an accountant after Grandpa's death. It discussed closing old registrations and updating company descriptions. One sentence had been underlined twice. Veteran-owned designation cannot continue after the qualifying owner's death. Beside it, Dad had written, "Remove from state forms." I read the note aloud. Mom sat in a folding chair. "He asked about that," she said. "When?" "After the funeral. Who did he ask?" "The accountant. Maybe the lawyer, too." "What did they tell him?" "That Harold's status belonged to Harold." "Dad understood?" "Yes." Her answer was barely audible. I laid the letter beside the original shop paperwork. Dad hadn't misunderstood an old family benefit. He knew Grandpa's service no longer qualified the company he had known for years. Mom folded her hands. "Maybe Ethan did this without telling him." "Maybe." "You don't believe that." "I believe Dad knew the company needed a current military connection." She looked at the documents. "What are you going to do?" "I haven't decided. Will the company lose the bid?" "I don't know." "Could Ethan get in trouble?" "I don't know that either." She pressed one hand against her mouth. I gathered the papers into a neat stack. "I need copies. Your father will notice. Then you make them." Mom looked at me. "These are his records. They were Grandpa's first. That doesn't make them ours." "No, it makes them evidence of what Dad knew." The word evidence frightened her. I could see it. She pushed back from the table. "I don't want the family torn apart, neither do I." "Then talk to your father." "If I talk to him now, documents may disappear." "He wouldn't do that." I looked at the note in Dad's handwriting. Mom followed my eyes. For once, she didn't defend him. She carried the folders upstairs and placed them beside the printer in the small den. Dad was still moving around above us. Each page passed slowly beneath the scanner light. Mom made 2 sets. She gave one to me and returned the originals to the basement. At the side door, she held my arm. "Diane, was the company using Harold's name too?" "Yes." "Was that part false?" "Not all of it." Her fingers tightened. He would have hated this. I thought about Grandpa's dog tags on my nightstand. "Yes," I said. "He would have." I drove back to Madison with the copies sealed inside an envelope on the passenger seat. Until that morning, I thought Ethan had borrowed my name to improve a bid. Now I understood what they had actually built. They took Grandpa's real history, added my current service, and filled the space between us with a job I'd never held. It wasn't one careless sentence. It was a bridge, assembled on purpose, from one Coleman veteran to another. The company stood in the middle and collected the points. The next afternoon, I called Ethan. He answered with machinery running behind him. "What's up? I need to speak with you alone." "About what?" "The Stevens Point bid." The machinery noise stopped. He'd moved somewhere quieter. "What about it?" "I'll be at the office at 5:30. I have plans." "Change them." "Diane, you can't order me into a meeting." "No, but you signed a false state certification using my name. You should probably hear what I know before Dad does." He was silent. Then he said, 5:30. I arrived at 5:20. Most of the staff had left. 2 pickups remained near the shop. The front office lights were still on. Ethan opened the door before I reached it. He wore work boots, khaki pants, and a quarter-zip shirt with the company logo. His reading glasses hung from his collar. He locked the door behind me. "That's dramatic," I said. "We're closed." "You could have said that through the glass." He walked past the reception desk, my office. I followed him down the hallway. Old project photographs covered the walls. Schools, clinics, warehouses, and municipal buildings. Dad appeared in most of the earlier pictures. Ethan appeared in the newer ones. The Stevens Point plans covered a table outside Jesse's office. A yellow note had been stuck to the top sheet. Final review, no exceptions. Inside Ethan's office, 2 monitors sat beside stacks of invoices. A framed anniversary photograph rested on the shelf. The family stood in front of the gold company sign. I wasn't in it. Ethan closed the door. Let me see what you have. I didn't sit. You know what I have. I know you said the bid. The preference narrative. His eyes moved toward the envelope in my hand. How did you get it? Public records. That packet isn't supposed to be public yet. The preference section is. Who released it? The state. Who at the state? I used the public records office. I didn't call anyone involved in the procurement. He pressed both palms against his desk. You work for the department. Yes. That makes this a conflict. You put me in the bid. I didn't put you on the selection committee. You put me on a company chart. He looked away. I removed the printed narrative and placed it on his desk. My gold box faced upward. Military Facilities Strategy and Community Liaison, I read. What does that person do? It's descriptive. Describe it. You've helped the family? With military facilities? You've talked about work over the years. Name one project. He moved behind his chair but didn't sit. You're making this sound worse than it is. I'm reading your words. They're marketing words. That's what you told Jesse. His head lifted. You spoke to Jesse? Yes. He had no authority to discuss the bid. He had his name on a false document. It wasn't false. I pointed to the dotted line. When did I co-direct planning with you? You didn't. When did I advise Coleman Builders? You didn't officially. When did I approve the use of my photograph? He rubbed his forehead. Kayla handled pictures. Did Kayla know I hadn't approved the narrative? No. Did Jesse? Not at first. Did Dad? Ethan picked up the relationship chart. It's a family company. Your family. That wasn't my question. He tossed the page back onto the desk. Dad knew we were using the family connection. Did he know you claimed I worked here? He knew the general language. Did he read it? Yes. That answer came too quickly. I waited. Ethan corrected himself. He read the summary, which said that your experience supported the company. Did Dad tell you he'd gotten my permission? No. Did you tell Jesse that? Ethan's mouth tightened. I said Dad handled it. Why? Because Jesse was slowing everything down. So you lied to him. I got the package finished. You lied. Fine. He spread his hands. I lied to Jesse about whether Dad talked to you. Why didn't Dad talk to me? You know why. I want to hear you say it because you would have said no. The office went quiet. A heater clicked behind the wall. I said, you knew the claim was false before you filed it. We qualified through the family. No. Grandpa's designation ended. His service didn't disappear. The qualification did. You think that makes sense? It doesn't matter whether you like the rule. We didn't invent the connection. You invented my job. Ethan looked toward the window. Darkness had settled over the parking lot. The shop lights shone through the glass. I placed Dad's handwritten note beside the narrative. Not eligible under current ownership. Ethan stared at it. Where did you get that? Mom's basement. You went through Dad's files. They were Grandpa's records. You had no right. Dad knew the old designation couldn't transfer. I never said he didn't. Then you needed me. He lowered himself into the chair. For the first time, he looked tired. Not embarrassed, not guilty, tired. I sat across from him. Why this bid? He didn't answer. Why was it worth signing something false? You wouldn't understand. Try me. You have a paycheck every 2 weeks. So do you, only if money comes in. I looked at the invoices stacked beside him. How bad is it? He leaned back. We're fine. I reached for the papers. Then we're done. Wait. I stopped. He rubbed both hands across his face. We've lost money 3 years straight. I sat back. How much? It changes. That means you know. We had 2 bad projects. Then materials jumped. We priced one school edition too low and ate the difference. What about the warehouse in Merrill? Change order dispute. You told Dad it made money. I told him we'd recover it. Did you? No. He looked at the closed door. The regional firms are killing us. They can undercut by 5% and carry the loss. We can't. How much does the company owe? I'm not giving you the books. Then give me the reason. He pushed a stack of invoices aside. The Stevens Point contract keeps the main crew working. It gives us backlog through next year. Once the bank sees that, the line stays open. What happens without it? We find another project. Do you have one? No. What happens without it? His jaw worked. We shrink. How far? I don't know. Yes, you do. He looked directly at me. We may lose the shop. I glanced through the wall toward Grandpa's original building. The company owns that property. The bank has the property. When did that happen? Last summer. Dad remortgaged it? Yes. I took a slow breath. For how much? Enough. Does Mom know? She knows there was paperwork. That wasn't my question. Dad didn't want her worrying, so he hid it. He was protecting her. From knowing she could lose her home, the house isn't attached. From knowing the business could fail. Ethan turned one monitor off. The second screen showed a spreadsheet filled with red cells. He'll be 80 next year, Ethan said. What does that change? Everything. How? He wanted to hand me a company that was stronger than the one Grandpa gave him. Grandpa didn't give him this company. Dad built most of it. That's not how he sees it. I said nothing. Ethan looked at the anniversary photograph. That whole gala was supposed to reassure people. The lenders, everybody, suppliers, clients, the chamber, state officials. Yes, that's why Kayla cared who attended. That's why Dad cared. And my uniform? Ethan's face shifted. Kayla thought it would help. Dad didn't. Dad wanted attention on the company. I looked at the photograph without me. Apparently. Ethan leaned forward. He didn't plan that joke. That makes it better? No. Then why mention it? Because you keep treating this like Dad sat down and designed some attack on you. He read a bid that invented a job for me. He was trying to save the company by using the same service he mocked in public. He was under pressure. So was I. You drove home. We came back here and worked. I let that sit between us. Ethan looked down first. I asked, what does Logan know? Nothing. He saw my name. He saw a binder. Does he know the company may fail? No. Why not? Because Dad wants something left for him. Does Logan want it? He works here. That wasn't my question. Ethan pushed his chair back. You don't get to come in after 30 years and question what we built. I'm questioning what you built with my name. You left. I joined the Guard. I didn't leave the family. You missed years. I served, and I stayed. His voice rose. I dealt with Dad every day. I worked Saturdays. I took calls during dinner. I cleaned up jobs he underbid because he couldn't admit his numbers were old. I kept my voice even. And that earned you permission to sign my name into a lie. I didn't sign your name. You certified my role. For points. Yes. Points, Diane. Not a check. Not a loan. A scoring preference. On an $11.4 million contract. He looked away. I understood then that Ethan had divided the act into small pieces. A photograph wasn't a lie. A biography wasn't a lie. Grandpa's service wasn't a lie. My relationship to Dad wasn't a lie. The points were only points. He had arranged the true pieces until they supported something false. I asked, whose idea was the current connection? Mine. Did Dad hesitate? He asked if it would pass. What did you say? I said yes. Did he ask whether I'd agreed? He asked whether we needed to involve you, and I said no. What did he say? Ethan rubbed his thumb along the desk edge. He said, then don't. That was the answer. Not confusion, not bad wording, a decision. I put the papers back into the envelope. Ethan watched me. What happens now? I make sure the state knows I had no role. You'll kill the bid. The facts may kill it. Same result. No, it is to the 60 people who work here. Did they write the narrative? No. Did they certify it? No. But they'll pay for it. I stood. Then you should have considered them before filing. He came around the desk. Give us time to correct it. Correct what? Remove your section. Refile the narrative. You already certified the original. We can explain it as an error. It wasn't an error. Who benefits from you saying that? The truth doesn't need a beneficiary. He gave a short, bitter laugh. There she is. Who? The person who always gets to be clean because somebody else handles the mess. I picked up my coat. You made this mess. Dad will blame me. You filed it. He'll blame you too. I know. I left before Dad arrived. Mom called the next morning. I was packing lunch when my phone rang. She didn't ask about the bid. She said, "Your father was up again. Is he sick?" "He keeps checking the bank account." I closed the refrigerator. "What bank account? The company line?" My hand stayed on the door handle. Mom continued. "He thinks I don't know. Statements started coming here after the office bookkeeper changed banks. How long? More than a year. Did he tell you about the mortgage?" She was silent. "Mom, I found the papers last fall." "On the shop?" "Yes." "Why didn't you say anything?" "To whom?" "To me?" "Ethan." "Anyone." Ethan already knew. Her voice tightened. "Your father said the Stevens Point contract would fix everything. He said he only had to hold things together until then. Did he tell you how they plan to win?" "No." "Did he mention me?" "No." That answer sounded honest. Mom lowered her voice. "He's terrified, Diane. Of losing the company? Of people knowing." I sat at the kitchen table. She said, "He can survive selling a building. He can't survive everybody watching him do it." I thought about the gala. The gold letters, the lenders, the photograph showing a family succession that didn't exist yet. Mom, the company used my name because the old veteran designation expired. I know. Dad approved it. She didn't defend him. Instead, she said, "He thinks failing the business would mean he failed his father, so he used Grandpa to save it." Yes, and me. Mom took a shaky breath. Yes. After we hung up, I placed the narrative, Jesse's file information, and Grandpa's records across my kitchen table. There were no missing reasons anymore. Dad hadn't spent years calling my uniform a costume because he believed it was worthless. He called it worthless when its value threatened his. When the company needed that value, he took it. I opened the drawer beside the refrigerator and removed a clean sheet of paper. At the top, I wrote my name and the date. The first sentence took 3 tries. I became aware through a family conversation that Coleman Builders submitted a bid for the Stevens Point Readiness Center renovation. I crossed out family conversation. That detail explained how I learned about it, but not what mattered. I started again. I have no financial, advisory, operational, or ownership role in Coleman Builders, LLC. I did not assist with its bid, authorize the use of my name, or provide information related to military facilities. That was clean. I added that the bidder was owned by my father and operated by my brother. I stated that I would take no part in any discussion, review, recommendation, or decision involving the company. Then I wrote the hardest sentence. I am formally recusing myself from all matters touching this procurement and referring the attached discrepancy for independent compliance review. I signed the page. I didn't type it because I wanted the first record to be unmistakably mine. No staff member prepared it. Nobody softened the language. I scanned the letter and placed the original in a folder. At 7:30, I carried that folder into Alan's office. He had just removed his coat. His computer was still starting. "Do you have 5 minutes?" He looked at the folder. "I have as many as this needs." I closed the door and sat across from him. The family conflict I mentioned is no longer theoretical. I handed him the recusal letter. He read it without interrupting. Then I gave him the preference narrative, certification page, and copies from Mom's basement. Alan read the company narrative first. His expression stayed controlled until he reached the relationship chart. He tapped the gold box beside my name. "What is this?" "Fiction. Have you ever advised the company?" "No." "Have you ever discussed guard construction priorities with them?" "No." "Did you know they were bidding?" "Not until after submission." "Did you authorize the photograph?" "No." He turned to the certification. "Your brother signed." "Yes." "Your father knew?" "He knew they needed a current military connection." Ethan says Dad approved the summary and told him not to involve me. Can you prove that? Not yet. Alan looked at me. We don't need to prove your father's words to verify the bid. I know. What do you need from me? Acknowledgement of the recusal and the correct referral. You'll get both. He read the letter again. Has anyone assigned to procurement discussed this with you? No. Have you accessed internal bid records? No. Everything came through public records. Did you use your position to get it released? No. Who else knows? Leonard knows the basic conflict. Jesse knows I have the narrative. Ethan knows too. Reporter? She knows I deny advising the company. Alan leaned back. Dawn Cummings. Yes. She called public affairs yesterday. What did she ask? Whether your family relationship created an advantage for the bidder. What did they say? That procurement decisions follow established scoring and verification. That won't satisfy her. No. He closed the folder. This has to go to Christina Long. I expected that. She'll ask direct questions. She should. She may also need access to your service record. My packet already contains it. That's part of the problem. I held his gaze. Alan continued. The bid states information about your service that doesn't match the record moving through this building. I noticed. So will anyone verifying both? That's why I'm here. He nodded once. You did the right thing bringing it now. I didn't feel relief. I felt the next door opening. Christina called me before lunch. Her voice was calm and quick. Can you come downstairs at 1? Yes. Bring nothing that hasn't already been copied to the referral. I won't. Her office sat in a quieter section of the building. A locked cabinet covered most of one wall. 2 binders rested squarely on her desk. She pointed to the chair across from her. I sat. She didn't offer coffee. I've reviewed your letter, she said. I need to establish a boundary first. All right. You are the subject of a bidder representation. You are also an employee within the department's command structure. You are not part of my review, I understand. You won't contact procurement staff about status. I won't. You won't request internal records. I haven't. You won't communicate with Coleman Builders on behalf of the department. I won't. She opened one binder. Now I need yes or no answers. I place my hands in my lap. Do you own any part of Coleman Builders? No. Have you ever received compensation from the company? No. Have you advised it on any project? No. Did you provide information for the Stevens Point bid? No. Did you authorize the use of your service record? No. Did you authorize the photograph? No. Did you know your name appeared in the bid before submission? No. Did anyone ask for verbal permission? No. Could someone reasonably believe you gave verbal permission? No. She made a note. Why not? Because nobody discussed the bid with me. Your brother may say your family conversations counted as informal advice. Then he should identify one. Christina looked up. Would he be able to? No, she wrote again. The bid also misstates your current status. Yes. I verified that against the federal recognition packet. That was the connection I had feared. The same official record supporting my future now proved my family's statement false. Christina turned the binder toward herself. The discrepancy requires a standard verification review. I'm sending notice to the bidder today. What does the notice say? That the military family enterprise claim has been selected for verification. It requests consent records, proof of material involvement, and an explanation of the service information. How long do they have? The initial response is due in 3 business days, and the contract, the intent to award schedule, continues unless procurement pauses it. The public protest and comment window lasts 5 business days after posting. Who controls that? Not you, I know. Not me either. Procurement controls its schedule. My office verifies the claim. That distinction mattered. No single person could turn my report into a private favor. I asked, will they receive my recusal letter? Not unless it becomes necessary. They'll receive the verification questions. What happens if they withdraw the preference claim? That depends on timing and intent. She closed the binder. The original filing remains the original filing. I looked at her. even if they replace the attachment? The submission system archived it in January. That was the first time I understood the real value of the state's process. I had a public copy. Christina had the filed original. It carried the submission time, the bidder account, and Ethan's certification. Nobody could change what had already arrived. She said, "I'll contact you if I need clarification. Otherwise, do not follow up. I won't." At the door, she added, "Keep your personal copy secure." I will. Coleman Builders received the notice at 2:14. I knew because Ethan called at 2:21. I didn't answer. He called again. Then a text appeared. "What did you do?" I took a screenshot and put my phone face down. At 3, he sent another. "This can be corrected without an investigation." At 4:12, Dad called. I watched his name appear on the screen. He left no voicemail. That evening, Ethan sent a third message. "You should have come to us first." I had come to him. What he meant was that I should have allowed the company to control what happened next. I didn't respond. The following day, Alan stopped at my doorway. "Christina needs a supplemental statement." "About what?" "Any possible business benefit you've received." I told her none. "She needs it in writing." "I'll have it in 10 minutes. He stayed near the door. "Your packet review flagged the same discrepancy independently." "When?" "This morning." "Because of the bid?" "Because the service information didn't match. The systems finally crossed." That removed the last possible argument that I had created the problem. Even without my referral, verification would have found it. I wrote the supplemental statement. Alan witnessed my signature, then sent it through the official record system. After that, I went back to work. For 2 days, I heard nothing. On Friday morning, Christina called. The bidder submitted a corrected narrative. I closed my office door. "What did they change?" "Your name was removed. The preference request was withdrawn." "That sounds like an admission." "I didn't say that, no." The company described the original language as an internal drafting error. Did they explain Ethan's certification? They said he relied on staff preparation. Jesse warned him. "Do you have that in writing?" "Jesse has an email." "Do you have a copy?" "No." "Then I can't use it." I looked at the folder on my desk. What happens to the original? It stays archived. And the corrected version? Also archived, so the system shows both. With separate timestamps. When was the correction submitted? After the verification notice. She allowed that fact to sit there. Then she said, "Do not contact the bidder. I won't. Do not contact Mr. Avila." "I understand." She ended the call. That afternoon, Logan texted me. "Can we meet?" I asked where. He chose a coffee shop near the interstate in Portage. It was halfway between Madison and Wausau. I arrived first. Logan came in wearing his company jacket. He ordered nothing. He sat across from me and placed a folded sheet of paper on the table. "What is this?" I asked. "The submission record." I opened it. The top line showed the January filing date and exact time. Beneath it was the original attachment list. Military Family Enterprise Narrative appeared near the bottom. Ethan's account was listed as the submitting user. A second section showed the later correction. It had been filed 46 minutes after Coleman Builders received the verification notice. "Where did you get this?" "The company portal." "Do you have access?" "I manage bid tabs and confirmations." "Did Ethan ask you to print it?" "No." "Does he know you did?" "No." I folded the page again. "Logan, Christina already has this." "I know." "Then why bring it?" "Because Grandpa keeps saying the first version was never really filed." "Your grandfather said that." "He said it was a draft that got uploaded by mistake. The record in my hand showed a completed filing, certified and untouched for months." Logan looked toward the window. "He told everybody the state was twisting paperwork because of you." "What did Ethan say?" "Nothing." "Does your dad know it was deliberate?" Logan pressed his lips together. "He knows Grandpa told him to fix it after the audit notice." That didn't answer my question. It did tell me Ethan was still letting Dad rewrite the sequence. I slid the paper into my folder. "Are you going back to work?" "Yes." "Will this cause trouble for you?" "Probably." You don't have to involve yourself further. I was already involved. I checked the tabs. You didn't create the claim. I saw your name and kept quiet. You told me at lunch. By accident. Then you corrected the accident. He looked down at his hands. After a moment, he said, I thought you should have one copy they couldn't explain away. I put the record in my folder. Go back to work, I said. Logan nodded, but he stayed in the chair. What happens if they lose the contract? I don't know. Dad says people will be laid off. That may be true. He says you know that. I do now. Logan rubbed both palms against his jeans. Does it change anything? No. He nodded again. This time he left. I watched him cross the parking lot. He sat in his truck for several minutes before driving north. A week later, Kayla called. Her voice was unusually warm. Your father's speaking at the chamber breakfast Thursday. I heard. Are you coming? No. It might be good if you did. For whom? The family. I looked at the calendar on my refrigerator. What is he speaking about? Local contractors and public projects. Stevens Point. It's one example. An active procurement is an interesting example. She sighed. The correction was filed. After the verification notice, it was still corrected. Why do you want me there? Dad feels like people are talking. They are. Seeing you with us would calm things down. There it was. They didn't want my consent for the bid. They wanted my presence after it. I'll think about it, I said. Kayla softened further. Thank you. I ended the call without agreeing. That afternoon, Dawn emailed me a copy of the breakfast announcement. Her message contained one sentence. He plans to address the military family issue. I called her. What did he tell you? That Coleman Builders remains fully qualified. Did he say under which preference? He said I should attend. Are you going? Yes. I looked toward my office door. Save me a seat. The breakfast was held in a hotel conference room near Highway 51. I wore a gray suit and arrived alone. Kayla stood beside the registration table. When she saw me, relief moved across her face. You came. I said I'd think about it. She hugged me before I could stop her. A photographer near the wall captured it. Kayla stepped back. You look nice. So do you. She wore a green dress and a gold company pin. Dad's at the head table. We saved you a place. Where? Front table. I'll sit with Dawn. Her smile tightened. She's working. So am I. Are you here officially? No. Then what does that mean? It means I'm listening. Dawn sat near the center aisle with a recorder beside her coffee. The chair next to her was empty. I took it. She looked at my suit. No uniform. No. Your family wanted one? My family wanted a photograph. That wasn't my question. It's the answer I can give you. She smiled slightly. I recognize that sentence. Dad entered with Ethan and two chamber officers. He wore a navy suit and the green tie Kayla had chosen for the gala. He saw me and paused. Then he smiled for the room. He crossed to our table and placed a hand on my shoulder. Glad you came. The hand remained there while the photographer took another picture. I didn't move. Dad leaned closer. Let's keep this positive, then say true things. His fingers tightened once before he removed them. I know how to speak about my company. I'm sure you do. He went to the head table. Dawn turned on her recorder. Breakfast lasted 40 minutes. People ate scrambled eggs and potatoes while a chamber officer discussed road funding. Dad took the microphone at 8:15. He began with the same story about Grandpa's borrowed saw. Then he talked about 50 years of payrolls, weather delays, and buildings that still stood. He was good at that part. Dad understood work. He knew how to describe a crew pouring concrete before sunrise. He remembered the names of retired foremen and suppliers who'd extended credit. People listened because much of it was true. Then he moved to Stevens Point. Some folks think only the big regional companies can handle public work now, he said. We disagree. He looked toward Ethan. We've got local experience. We've got military family history. We've got people who understand what these facilities need. Dawn wrote something. Dad continued. My father served his country, then came home and built this company. My daughter serves today. That connection didn't come from a consultant. It came from our dinner table. I kept my hands around my coffee cup. Dad looked directly at me. Diane's been around this business her whole life. She knows what we do. We know what she does. Families talk. That was his new version of material involvement. No meetings, no advice, just dinner. A chamber member raised his hand. There's been a question about your preference paperwork. Can you address it? Dad nodded like he'd been waiting. A drafting issue. Nothing more. Dawn lifted her recorder slightly. Dad said, a staff member used language the state considered too broad. We corrected it immediately. Jesse had warned Ethan before submission. The original remained filed for months. The correction came after notice. Dad knew none of that would fit comfortably into a breakfast answer. The chamber member asked, are you still seeking the preference? We're seeking a fair evaluation. That wasn't my question. A few people looked toward Dawn. Dad smiled. Government forms have a way of turning simple truths into complicated boxes. Dawn raised her hand. Does your daughter advise Coleman Builders on military facilities? Dad glanced at me. I said nothing. He faced Dawn again. She's family. Of course she advises us. My cup stopped halfway to my mouth. Dawn asked, has she ever advised you on the Stevens Point project? We've had conversations over the years. About that project? Dad's smile disappeared. You'd have to ask her. Every face near our table turned toward me. I set down the cup. Dawn waited. So did Dad. He expected me to rescue him. Even then, he thought silence meant agreement. I said, this is Mr. Coleman's presentation. Then I folded my hands. Dad laughed into the microphone. There you go. She's always careful when she's in work mode. Dawn didn't laugh. Dad looked around the room. She puts on that uniform and everything becomes procedure. Around our table, she's still my daughter. He continued speaking for another 10 minutes. He promised Coleman Builders would pursue every available remedy. He said local jobs shouldn't be lost because of paperwork. He called the preference review an example of government overreach. Then he committed fully. We stand behind every word we submitted, he said. Nobody at this company tried to claim anything we didn't earn. Ethan looked down at his plate. I let Dad finish. I didn't show the timestamp record. I didn't mention his handwritten note about Grandpa's expired designation. I didn't tell the room Ethan had already admitted the claim was deliberate. Dad handed back the microphone to warm applause from half the room. The other half stayed quiet. As people left, Dawn touched my elbow. Was his statement accurate? No. Can I quote you? You can quote that one word. When will you provide documents? I won't. She frowned. Why not? Because the department has them. The review belongs there. Your father just put his version on the record. I heard him. You're letting him control the story. No. I'm letting him finish it. Kayla approached before Dawn could ask more. That went well, she said. Dawn turned off her recorder. I looked at Kayla. Did it? Dad explained everything. He certainly did. Kayla glanced at Dawn. We're having a family dinner Sunday for Beverly's birthday, 6 o'clock. I know when Mom's birthday is. Please come. I'll be there. Dad's statement appeared in Dawn's article the next morning. Coleman Builders stands behind military family claim. The article quoted my one-word answer. No. Dad called twice. I didn't answer. Sunday evening, I arrived at Mom's house carrying a lemon cake from her favorite bakery. Dad met me in the hallway. You made me look like a liar. I took off my coat. You were holding the microphone. Dawn printed your answer like some accusation. She asked a question. You could have said the company misunderstood. It didn't. Ethan came from the dining room. Not tonight. Dad ignored him. You reported us. Yes. His face reddened. You went behind my back to destroy this company because your feelings got hurt at a party. Mom stood near the kitchen door. Kayla and Logan remained at the table. I said, this started before the party. You've resented this business your whole life. No, you couldn't stand that Ethan stayed and built something. Ethan looked at the floor. Dad stepped closer. You think that uniform makes you better than people who work for a living. Mom said, Richard, stop. He pointed toward me. She waited until the biggest contract we've ever had. That's not duty. That's revenge. I looked at Ethan. He knew when I discovered the narrative. He said nothing. Dad continued. You could have called me. You could have fixed this inside the family. You knew I would say no, so you didn't ask. His mouth opened. Then he looked at Ethan. That one movement confirmed everything. Dad turned back to me. What did he tell you? The truth. He blamed me. No, he explained you. Dad's hand closed around the back of a dining chair. Mom moved between us. Enough. It's my birthday. That stopped him for 1 second. I handed Mom the cake. I'm sorry. Don't leave. I'm not staying for this. Dad said, walk out. That's what you do. I put on my coat. At the door, I turned once. I reported facts, not feelings. Then I left. The following Monday, Alan came into my office carrying a sealed envelope. He placed it on my desk. Federal recognition is complete. I looked at the envelope. When? This morning. I didn't touch it yet. Alan said, the ceremony will be in July. The Adjutant General will preside. Who knows? Officially, the people who need to. My family. Not unless you tell them. I opened the envelope and read the date. The quarterly public accountability briefing was scheduled for the same morning, in the same building. Christina's pending compliance determinations were listed on the agenda. I looked at Alan. Is that normal? The briefing date was set months ago. And the ceremony? The calendar lined up. He watched me absorb that. You're allowed to invite your family. I know. Will you? I thought about Dad holding the microphone. I thought about his promise that Coleman Builders stood behind every submitted word. Yes, I said. All of them. The invitations went out that afternoon. Mom accepted within an hour. Logan answered next. Kayla replied for herself and Ethan. Dad waited 3 days. Then Mom called. He's coming. Did he say why? He said family should be present. That was enough. In July, the main hall at Joint Force Headquarters filled before 9. The color guard waited near the front. Press cameras lined one wall. My family sat in the first 2 rows. Dad wore his navy suit. Mom wore pale blue. Ethan kept checking his phone until Kayla covered it with her hand. Logan saw me near the side door. He gave one small nod. Dawn sat behind them with her recorder ready. Alan adjusted the program on the lectern. Leonard checked the room, then came over to me. You breathing? Yes. Just confirming. I appreciate your concern. He looked toward my family. Interesting turnout. They were invited. That isn't what I meant. The ceremony began. The color guard entered. The room settled. Alan welcomed the families, staff, and guests. Then Major General Gabriel Medina stepped to the lectern. He was the Adjutant General of Wisconsin. He had reviewed my record. He also knew why the compliance briefing had drawn extra press. He called me forward. I moved to the marked position before him. State your name and service, he said. Diane Coleman, 32 years. Dad shifted in his chair. Medina opened the official order. He spoke about service that began in 1990. He described 3 deployment rotations, Bosnia in 1999, Iraq in 2005, and Afghanistan in 2011. He didn't turn it into a legend. He read the record as work, assignments, commands, responsibilities, years when I came home and returned again. Then he closed the folder. There is a father in this room, he said, who has apparently been telling people this uniform is rented. Nobody laughed. Dad's face changed. Medina looked at me, not him. The state of Wisconsin and the United States Army have reviewed the matter more carefully. He opened the order again. By authority properly vested, Diane Coleman is federally recognized and named Brigadier General. For 1 second, the room made no sound. Leonard Goodwin stood first. His chair moved softly against the floor. Then the room followed him. Mom covered her mouth. Logan's eyes stayed on me. Ethan stared straight ahead. Dad looked at the people around him. He had spent my whole life making the uniforms small inside family rooms. Now he watched an entire headquarters recognize what he had refused to name. Medina pinned the star. He shook my hand. "Congratulations, General Coleman." "Thank you, sir." The applause came after that. It wasn't wild, it didn't need to be. When I returned to my place, Mom was crying quietly. Dad's hands rested flat on his knees. The program moved into the quarterly public accountability briefing. Christina Long approached the lectern carrying a thin folder. Dad leaned toward Ethan. "What's this?" Ethan whispered something I couldn't hear. Christina began with 2 routine items, a vendor certification delay, a subcontracting correction. Then she opened the Coleman Builders determination. Dad stopped moving. Christina read the project name and value. The Department of Military Affairs has concluded its verification of the Military Family Enterprise Preference Claim, submitted by Coleman Builders, LLC, for the $11.4 million Stevens Point Readiness Center renovation. Every word arrived evenly. The original filing represented that then Colonel Diane Coleman materially supported and co-directed company operations related to military facilities. That was the first ordinary use of my former rank in the room. Christina continued. The named service member did not authorize the representation, held no role in the company, and provided no support to the bid. Dad turned toward me. I kept my eyes on Christina. The original claim also misstated service information. Following notice of verification, the bidder attempted to replace the archived narrative and withdraw the preference request. Ethan's face had gone pale. The original filing remained preserved by timestamp and bidder certification. The later correction did not erase the submitted representation. Logan looked down once. He knew exactly which record she meant. Christina finished. Coleman Builders is therefore disqualified from this procurement. The matter is referred for the standard 3-year state contract debarment review. The company's eligibility to pursue state work is suspended during that review. She turned the page. That concludes the determination. No shouting followed. The room simply went still. Dad spoke anyway. Ethan filed it. His voice carried farther than he intended. Ethan looked at him. "Dad, you signed it. This was your doing." Mom turned toward Dad. For 57 years, she had lowered her voice whenever he raised his. This time, she spoke over him. "You used your daughter's name without asking." Dad blinked. Mom continued. "That is the shame, Richard, not the audit." He looked at her as if she'd spoken in another language. Nobody in the family answered for him. The briefing continued. That was the consequence. No arrest, no officers at the door, no dramatic removal. A state contracting officer finished her sentence, closed the folder, and moved to the next item. Coleman Builders did not receive the Stevens Point contract. The debarment review remained open for 3 years. During that period, the company couldn't bid on state work. Ethan sold 2 pieces of equipment they rarely used. He gave up the larger storage yard and renegotiated the company's bank line. The business survived, but it became smaller. Dad stopped going to the office every day. For the first month, he blamed the state. Then he blamed Ethan. For a while, he blamed me. Ethan finally stopped accepting it. He took responsibility for filing the narrative, then restructured the company around private commercial work. Logan moved into a real operating role. His first rule was simple. If somebody's name supports a claim, I want their signature. Jesse stayed. He provided his January email during the debarment review and admitted he should have refused the final wording. Dawn's article ran beneath a photograph from the ceremony. The headline did not mention revenge. It said the preference claim had failed verification. That was accurate. Dad came to my house in October. He arrived alone on a rainy Saturday afternoon. No flowers, no envelope, no audience. I opened the door and waited. He looked older than he had in July. "Can I come in?" "Yes." We sat at my kitchen table. He noticed one cabinet door hanging crooked. "You still haven't fixed that." "No, I can do it, not today." He folded his hands. For almost a minute, neither of us spoke. Then Dad said, "I was wrong." I waited. He looked down at the table. About the bid. About the uniform. All of it. Ethan signed the filing. I approved it. Yes. I thought if we won the contract, I could fix everything before anybody knew. You knew I would say no. Yes. Rain tapped against the kitchen window. He said, "I made your work small because mine was failing." That was the closest Dad came to explaining himself. I didn't forgive him at the table. I didn't tell him everything was fine. I said, "Thank you for telling the truth." He nodded. Then he repaired the cabinet door before he left. A few weeks later, Mom invited us to dinner. I wore my uniform because I had come directly from Madison. Grandpa's dog tags rested beneath my blouse. Dad didn't make a joke. After we ate, he looked across the table. "What is your actual job?" The question was so ordinary that I almost missed what it meant. I explained it plainly. The people, the planning, the facilities, and the responsibility when decisions went wrong. Dad listened without interrupting. When I finished, he asked one more question, then another. Mom brought coffee. Logan cleared the plates. Ethan remained quiet. Under my blouse, Grandpa's dog tags rested against my skin. Dad finally let me finish an answer. If this story moved you, subscribe and let me know where you are watching from.